Welcome back to a new video. In this video, we're going to talk about props and reusable components. We can open up the Notion guide. In the Notion guide, you will be able to find section 3, where we're going to be talking about props and reusable components, as you can see here. We are going to start working on the starter project here. You can click on the link and it will open this page for you. So we're going to work in the prop starter project. You can click the fork to make your own copy. Now that we're ready to start working, we're going to be working, learning about what are props and how we can make our components reusable by implementing props inside of our components. So if we open up the components folder here and look at the experience.js component, we can see that we are repeating this div here, which contains the h3 and a paragraph to detail the experience 1. And then we repeat the same stuff here to talk about the second experience in our resume page here. So we're going to learn how we can declare a separate component that we can make it reusable and we can stay dry, right? We right at the moment we're breaking one of the programming principles, the dry principle, where we are not supposed to be repeating ourselves. So repeated code is bad practice. So we're going to fix this with reusable components and props. So inside components, we're going to create a new component. This one is going to be called experience item.js. And in this new file, we're going to create a functional component, experience item, and we're going to return some JSX from here in a second. Let's make sure we have the export default experience item component. Defaults. All right, so from here, we're going to return some JSX. So basically what we're trying to do, let's have this component to the right, and we can keep, let's show this one here, the experience and the experience item to the right hand side. We can close this, we don't need this at the moment. Can open this up a little bit more and make this a little bit smaller. So the experience component contains a div with an h3 and a paragraph, which is showing this job information here. So something that we can do, we can bring this div, we can copy all of this. So the div that is wrapping the h3 and the paragraph, we can cut it from there and we can bring it inside of the new experience item component and paste it there. We can hit save. Now we have a new component here. Now we can get rid of the second div here and we can leave this pretty much empty. And if we save it, we see that we only have the h2 with the word experience here, or the section heading experience at the moment. Now this experience item pretty much contains the same information we had before, the div with the h3 and a paragraph. So we could bring this component inside of the experience component. So let's do that. Let's do experience item component so it can import the component for us. And then right below the h2, we can render the experience item component. And that's supposed to be // just like this. Now we can see that we have the information from the experience item component again here. Job experience 1 and then some dummy text here. We can render this multiple times, so we can copy this down by hitting Shift Alt down. Or you can just copy and paste it down. And when you save, you have two instances of the experience item component. See the first one here and the second one here. So the only problem is that we are displaying the same data, right? We're displaying the job experience 1 and job experience 1 because this data is just static, it's not dynamic, it's not changing, it's just sitting there. So we need to make this component reusable, right? Right now, we just have a separate component. We want this component to be able to take in some information and display that information inside of the component. And in React, we have the props system. The props system is used to pass data from one parent component to a child component. So inside of the experience component here, we could pass data to the experience item component. So inside of the element invocation here, we can declare, let's say, title. We can declare a new prop just by calling this title, and we can set that, we can pass some data and say, for example, let's just say hello world here. And we can also pass some another prop called text and say I am learning React. So what we've done here is that we declare two props, a prop called title and a prop called text. And each prop has some data. This one has the string hello world, and the text prop has the I am learning React text string that we're passing. So this is how you declare the props, right? When you call your component, you can declare a prop and pass in some data to this key, right? It's a key pair value for the props objects, because the props object is just a regular JavaScript object that contains key and values. So right now we just declare the props. And now we can go back to the experience item. And in order to receive the props, we need to go to the parentheses in here, and we can declare props. We can say props here. We can declare a new variable. And for now, we're just going to console.log. Let me try that again. Console.log props. So we can see what prop is, and we can open the console here. And as we can see here, we get one object with title and text. And don't worry if you see this twice, this is normal in React. When we develop this most of the times you will see things console log twice. So in here we see the console log from the experience item component. And for one of these instances, we can see that we have some information. We have a title, we have an object with a title and text, and then there's an empty one because this one, we're not passing anything, but it's still console logging. But for this instance, we're not sending any data. So this is just console logging a empty object, right? If we pass in some other data here, so let's say title for this one, title equals, let's say hello again. And then we can see that now we have a hello world, and this one now is console logging hello again. And this one for the text, we're just gonna say some text. We'll change this in a bit. So for this one, if we can see the console log is displaying the data that we pass in here. And then for this instance, the console log is displaying the data that we're passing in this props definition here. So each instance, every time you call this component, you can pass in different data using the same name of the props, but the data could be different, right? This one is hello world, this one is hello again, and you will see each instance console logging their own data from inside the function using the props system. So now we know how to declare props, and we can see how to inspect the props, taking the props by defining props here, and then we can console log the props object just to make sure the data is coming in. So now how we can make this data render inside of the JSX here. Well, that is very easy because props is just a normal object. So we can, inside of the JSX, we can go to the H3 and we can remove the text there. We can use curly brackets again to execute any JavaScript that we want inside the curly brackets. So we can just access the props object, and we can do the annotation to access the title and save. And now we scroll down, we can see that in the experience, each component, each instance here, instead of the experience that we had there, we're displaying the data that we're passing to each component. So we're accessing the title in here, the props.title, and we're reading the data that we pass into this one, which is hello world, and to this one is hello again. We can do the same for the p tag here. We can actually remove all of this like this, so we can have the p tag sitting at the same level. Again, curly brackets, so we can access props dot text and save. If we scroll down, let me make this a little bit smaller. We can see that we have I am learning React, and this one some text here. Right, so whatever value you pass here is what's going to be displayed by accessing the props object and then the name of the prop text or the name of the prop title. Right, if we make any changes here to the data, that is going to be changed on the UI. So one last thing I wanted to show you here. In here, we can, inside of the experience item component, we could keep our props in an object and use the annotation to access each one of those values. But we can also destructure the values from the props object, just like a regular object. We can destructure title and destructure text. And now we don't need to reference the props dot title. We just need to say title and text and save. And it's the same outcome. It will still looks the same. This is useful when you have a lot of props and you don't need to repeat yourself saying props title, props text. You can just destructure everything and have a cleaner code in this side of the JSX. Another way to destructure, you can also destructure here at the top, which you can just delete the props here and put parentheses and have the title and the text. Right, this is another option. I rather do it here because sometimes you get a lot of different props, and this gets pretty long at the top. So I like to just have everything here, taking props and destructure everything here. But also you can do it in there if you like. So in here, we're passing, right now we're passing just strings, but you can actually pass any data, any type of data, not just strings, to your props. This is just because this is what we had. We had strings, and we're passing just strings of text. But you can also, let's say if we have a array of data, right? Square brackets, and then let's say you have a object here with a title, and say the title is going to be, let's say, salesperson, and then the text will be it was a salesperson at a cell phone company. Just so we can put some text here. And let's do another object with a title. So curly brackets, title, And then here say customer service. And here let's do some text, which is going to say I was a customer service person at some tech company. Right, so now we have an array of data. So we could also, right, normally when you're working with data, your data is going to be structured in some data structure like an array, and then inside objects. So you could definitely use any data that you receive like this. It could be from a server, and then you can pass it to a component. And the way you do that, you still declare the prop name here, and then in here we just have to change the strings to curly brackets, so we can pass in data square bracket 0, so we can grab the first object, that title. And now we do that, we see that we have salesperson, which is this value here, and then we can do the same for the text. We can do curly brackets, data square bracket 0, that text, save it, and we can see I was a salesperson at a cell phone company. And let's just finish this one up as well. So we can do data square brackets 1, so we can get the second object, that text. And finally, let's do curly brackets, data square brackets 1, that text. And now if we scroll down, we can see that we have a salesperson. I was a salesperson at a cell phone company. And here I'm actually using text, which is wrong. I need to select the title and title. And we can see customer service and the text, I was a customer service person at some tech company. Right? So we have some array of data that we are reusing our experience idle component that we define in a separate file. We import the component, and then we have different instances. We call this twice, right? This is called in the object. And then we can pass in different props that we can name whatever we want. We just name it title because it makes sense for our app, and text because it also makes sense for what we're doing inside of this component here. We can pass in any type of data. Later, we're going to play around with some other type of data, numbers, booleans, etc., where we can pass to our components and render that inside of our reusable components. So this is your new reusable components, and now you're using props to pass data from one component, from one parent component to a child component.